I know you've been talking about specifically Ukraine a lot when it comes to trafficking, because the film focuses obviously on Latin America, South America, but you know, we've obviously with the war in Ukraine, we've seen an uptick in that part of the world.
And absolutely, yeah. Just last year, when the war broke out, my wife came to me late February and said, "Hey, you got to go find these 7 kids that we were processing for adoption out of our foundation." And I said, "Catherine, there's Russian missiles dropping. Like, I don't think I can do anything about these 7 kids." And a few hours later, Mel Gibson calls me and says the same thing, but he has like more kids, orphans, you know, he's worried about in Ukraine. So we ended up partnering with a group with my good friends at Aerial Recovery and ended up running extraction operations. 6,000 women and children we relocated, a lot of orphans in there. But the scary thing was, once we were there, you know, if human trafficking is a $150 billion a year business, people often ask, well, how do you get that many children into that kind of a market? And the answer is, it's what they call harvest time. Harvest time for traffickers is in the wake of a serious catastrophe, like an earthquake or a hurricane, or in this case, a war.
Or a war.
Because you have how many hundreds of Ukrainian children crying over the dead bodies of their family,
right.
No one to take care of them, and a nice van shows up with blankets and food, they're going to get in. And so we tapped into an organization, a criminal organization, while we were in Ukraine, and this was a pedophile group that had been, they were all fugitives out of Holland. They had set up a political party there. It's called the PNVD. Basically, it's the party of, translates into the party of love and freedom. You know, they use some terms.
No, we're familiar with the party, actually.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then they ended up fleeing justice because they were arrested and charged. They reared their ugly heads during the Ukraine war because they're trying to get kids. Now they're hiding in Mexico. They're hiding in Latin America. So anyway, we end up filming the entire thing. So you basically,
just real quick on that, you've got rat lines basically that are sourcing in Ukraine, but then they're actually running the operation down in Mexico.
Correct. Mexico, Caribbean, Ecuador. Anyway, so we filmed this whole thing as a 4-part series. It ends in we dismantle a child sex hotel in a little village in Ecuador called the Canoa, all being run by these Dutch pedophiles who we discovered when they reared their ugly heads around the Ukrainian war. So it's so transnational, this whole thing. I mean, in 4 months between February and June, July, we went through 6 countries, 3 continents, took down an entire trafficking organization, and that was just, and rescued hundreds, maybe thousands of preventative rescues. But it only happens if you can have a transnational solution, which is what we do. We bring that as a private organization.